paramedic, and I'm here to talk to you about equine-assisted therapy for first responders and military personnel that have had PTSD or workplace mental health injury. I've been working in emergency services for 21 years now. I know I don't look that old. Go ahead and the first 2 were as a volunteer firefighter, and the last 19 have been on the ambulance, most of those as an advanced care paramedic. I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2011, and even though I am here to talk to you today about equine-assisted therapy and the program that Prairie Sky launched this spring, I do want to tell you a bit about myself first. And I want to do this so that you understand my motivations and my passion behind creating this program. And the reason I'm doing it, because I want first responders and military personnel to be able to come and get some relief from their struggle and hopefully experience something life-changing. So my journey with PTSD started long before I was diagnosed. For me, it actually started in the womb. I had a mother with borderline personality disorder, and the abuse started when I was only a month or 2 old. It continued in the form of neglect, manipulation, abandonment, and because I went to school with dirty clothes and my hair not brushed, not to mention the fact that we were struggling financially, I was a really easy target. Not to mention the fact that I was the tallest girl in school with red hair. My entire elementary school and junior high experience consisted of physical violence and relentless bullying. My childhood trauma left me susceptible in ways I couldn't have dreamed of. Now, my PTSD is directly caused by my experiences as a paramedic, but I was wide open to it long before I chose my profession. And truth be told, I chose my profession because of my childhood trauma. I became the person I needed as a child. I became someone unflappable, solid, steady, strong, and always knowing what to do. I also believed that I had to do something of value to be something of value. I didn't realize that I had my own inherent value. Now, the reason we're all here is because we've either experienced a workplace mental health injury, or we're in a relationship with someone who has, or we have family that have been affected, or maybe we're here because we provide a resource for people to heal. But we may have had different circumstances that have brought us here, but we've ended up experiencing similar symptoms and the same crash in our lives. The anger, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the breakdown of relationships, the isolation, the fatigue, the anxiety, the addictions, the side effects of the meds, which also affect our relationships, if you guys know what I'm talking about. The financial distress, I mean, the list goes on. And it's like we became a part of a special club of suffering. But we are actively changing that by being here. We're changing that to a club of people who are experiencing post-traumatic growth. Now, my initial diagnosis surprised me. I just thought I was really angry and really tired, and if I could just get away from all the stupid people and sleep for 6 months, I'd be just fine. Right? I know people can relate to that. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I did that, and nothing improved. I knew something was wrong long before I had a name for it, but it took one very stressful night after years of being treated less than human by my employer and the public, and one very shitty call to feel my psyche fracture. I knew it redlined when the drug addict that had just been stabbed, that was in the back of my ambulance, looked up at me and went, "Are you okay?" I remember looking at him going, no, not by a long shot. What followed was years of things going wrong for me in my eyes. Meds and treatment that didn't completely work, a divorce, 2 miscarriages, both of which I had while I was at work, my house going to foreclosure twice, alcoholism, my best friend being diagnosed with terminal cancer, my mother becoming a paraplegic due to a botched surgery, me breaking my back, one of my horses breaking a leg, another one almost ripping off another leg. I'm not even joking, people, this all happened. We actually thought we were gonna have to put both of them down at one point. Multiple shitty relationships, 2 suicide attempts, a 2-year suicide pact with myself, and complete financial ruin. And just to top that all off, my best friend, my dog Ronan, dying. So I had nothing left. I had absolutely nothing left. Now, I'm not telling you this because I want you to feel bad for me, because I don't feel bad for me. I want you to know what you can rise from and why this program is so important to me. I also view this trauma as a gift now. I wouldn't be up here speaking to you if it hadn't happened. I wouldn't have started Prairie Sky. I wouldn't be the resilient soul that I am today, capable of love and capable of being loved. I believe my future is going to be better because of all of this. And it's motivated and inspired me to live a life much bigger than I had planned. So, let's see if I can do this here. Yeah. Okay, so I want to tell you just briefly about the methods that I tried so that you understand where my frame of reference is coming from. I tried talk therapy, I've tried the meds, I took a year off of work, I've tried hypnosis, I've tried energy work, equine-assisted therapy, active resolution therapy, which includes EMDR, and recently, sacred medicine, including ayahuasca. So I've done a lot of work to heal myself and get to the point where I am now. And all of these modalities have helped me to a certain extent, but the ones that were the most profound helped me heal my soul. My experience has been that PTSD is a soul or a heart injury. And I know that that might not make sense to some of you, but I also know that some of you are waking up for the first time in a long time because this resonates with you. My belief is that the brain injury we sustain from PTSD is secondary to the soul injury, the injury of origin. And I think that's why some people struggle with traditional therapies that are brain specific, because the original injury never fully heals. This is where equine-assisted therapy comes in. Horses heal your soul. They are medicine. And for me, it was a chance to get off the train of constant destructive thoughts. It allowed me to be present and only focus on what was right in front of me. It also, because horses are great mirrors to our behavior and our energy, it also allowed me to start building self-awareness, which is key to healing. Unless you know thyself, you cannot heal thyself. The biggest thing, though, is the unconditional love. To be accepted exactly as I was, broken, angry, defeated. To have a 1,200-pound, inherently wild animal say with his eyes, I love you and I trust you. So, what is equine-assisted therapy? According to Wikipedia, equine-assisted therapy encompasses a range of treatments that involve activities with horses to promote human, physical, and mental health. Now, we know that horses make us feel good, but many of us don't know why. Would you be surprised that there's actually a lot of science behind it? A number of things happen to our bodies when we are around horses that we're unaware of. It sets off a whole chain of events. So before I tell you what happens to the brain and the rest of your body when you're around horses, let's go through what happens when we have a traumatic event and the way the brain handles it. Now, I was shown a slide similar to this by a wonderful couple that I had the opportunity to learn from recently, Dr. Alan Hamilton and Dr. Jane Hamilton. Dr. Alan Hamilton is a neurologist, a neurosurgeon, and a neuroscientist, and Dr. Jane Hamilton is a psychologist. They also happen to be horse trainers. And they use horses to help people heal because they recognize how effective it is. In a regular day outside of work, when we're at an event, we have an event or an experience, it comes into the thalamus for sensory processing, and then it moves into the frontal lobe for cognitive processing. And then from there, it goes into the hippocampus, where it goes into your short-term memory as an experience, and then gets filed into long-term memory for recollection, which, by the way, is a different version every time you recollect it. In the fight or flight situation, the experience goes right from the sensory processing of your thalamus and right into your amygdala. The amygdala is the fight or flight part of our brain, which few people have covered already. This part of our brain is excellent for telling us to fight or flight, but it's not great for processing complex emotions, feelings, or thoughts. This is why the panicked patient or family you're dealing with seems to have the intelligence of a 4-year-old. The event goes from the amygdala through the locus coeruleus where norepinephrine is secreted, and it completely skips the frontal lobe for cognitive processing. Then it goes right into short-term memory as an experience. So this means these trauma events are not processed. We think they are, but they're not. So this leads me to ask some questions, such as, why do we ask people who have been through a traumatic situation if they're okay? Or if they're okay to go back to work? How on earth could they know? Why are we telling people that they have to ask for help before they can get it, when there's a good chance they don't even know they need the help? When we've experienced a traumatic event, we can start responding to everything in our lives from the amygdala. And when we start to live in the fight or flight part of our brains, it's extremely difficult to get out of it. We also secrete the hormone cortisol, which serves an important purpose in proper doses, as it facilitates the fight or flight process. But in long-standing doses, it can cause weight gain, insomnia, anxiety, depression, fatigue, all of those things. So, when you are near a horse, without having to do anything, you leave your amygdala, and you move into the frontal part of your brain. Now this is where we process complex thoughts and emotions. We start to secrete the happy neurotransmitters, serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. These are the hormones of attachment and belonging. And when we're in this state, we can experience happiness, bliss, love, gratitude. It's quiet and peaceful there. It's when we are completely present. It's in this state that your soul starts to heal. You'll notice this while being around animals, doing yoga, meditation, being in nature, or working out, among other things. So you can see how you're starting to be set up for success here. When we replay a traumatic event in our minds, the body doesn't know it isn't happening. We continue to have the same physiological response to it. And the brain also builds neural pathways around this event because we've told it it's important because we think about it all the time. These neural pathways become more solid the more we think about it. When we work with horses, we build new neural pathways of positive association and effectively starve the trauma pathways. Another amazing thing is that we all have an electromagnetic current that cycles around us. This is how you can feel the energy in a room when there's just been a fight. The horse's electromagnetic field is large and much stronger than ours. When we step into their electromagnetic field, we sync with theirs. When this happens, our biometrics match theirs. Our pulse drops, our blood pressure drops, our breathing gets slower, we feel calmer. Now the really cool part. Horses are incredibly intuitive. They can feel us before we even touch them. They understand how we're feeling, they pick up on our suffering, and they can read facial expressions and body language. Because they don't have an ego the way we do, they have no reason not to be honest with us. They mirror back to us our own behavior and state of being. And if we slow down enough to pay attention, we can see ourselves. This level of self-awareness allows us to take back the control. When we become aware of ourselves and our true response to things, we can start to take back control of that response. So what does that mean to us? Our continued suffering to an event is our continued reaction to triggers. We continue to relive that trauma over and over again in our responses to things in our daily life. Once we're aware of it, we can deliberately choose a different response instead of letting our amygdala respond for us. It takes work and a conscious effort, but we can begin to change how we respond to everything, which, like I said, in turn gives us our power back. I'll give you an example. And this is going to be funny because Teresa already talked about this. I'm sure there's nurses in the crowd, and I just want to say I love you all. But I have one of those faces that inspires unhappiness at triage. Some days I felt like I was, it is a real problem, I agree with you. Some days I felt like I was walking into a firing squad. I get so mad at the way I was being treated and talked to. I'd be pissed off for hours. Now, I get to go sit in the hallway and be mad for hours about it. And who suffers for that? Them or me? I had to learn to stop the fight or flight. And if anybody knows me, there is no flight, it is only fight. When I started to feel the anger creeping in, and I could feel the red crawling up my neck, which is another awesome thing about being a redhead, I warned everybody beforehand that I'm getting angry. I would stop and I'd go, is this a me problem? Can I walk away from this? Are they having a bad day? Is this my ego? Because if that's the case, then I need to have a conversation with myself. Are they actually being rude? And in that case, can I just ask them to please stop? In the 30-second stream of thought, my anger would come down from a 7 to a 3. Another thing that horses teach us is how to communicate clearly and with intention. Most of us have never been taught to figure out what our needs are or how to ask for them to be met. We've been taught to manipulate situations and people to get what we need, but we've never been taught to be vulnerable and sit and think about what it is we truly want and need, and then ask for it clearly. This leads to our needs not being met, and us getting frustrated when we don't have what we need to heal. I would come home from work, and my ex-husband would ask me how my day was. I would start ranting and only to realize that he'd completely tuned me out before I even opened my mouth to respond. I felt like he didn't care, and this led to a lot of resentment. So what if instead of going off on a rant immediately, I'd said to him, I had a hard day, I need you to listen to me, and then I need a hug. How different do you think his response to me would have been? Working with horses gives us the space and the environment where we can start to learn how to develop this skill. Horses require two things when you're working with them: to have their needs met and to have clear communication. Their needs are to feel safe, to be heard, to be fed, to be loved, to be looked after, and to be in a group of their own. And then clear communication, which starts with intention. What is the intention of my communication with you? What is it that I hope to achieve by communicating with you? How many of us practice this with ourselves, with our spouses, our children, our partners at work? If you don't ask clearly for what you want from a horse, you will get nowhere real fast. And there's no way you're forcing a 1,200-pound animal to do anything it doesn't want to do. So, our program. I started the program in 2010, and my initial dream was to have a program for adults and kids with special needs. Because I saw how they were being treated like second-class citizens, handing down equipment, clothes, staff that either cared but weren't making enough to stay in the job, or staff that didn't care. It was pure tenacity that got the program off the ground. We soon realized that we could help at-risk youth, and that program took off as well. Now, PTSD as a diagnosis at that point wasn't on my radar. And as I progressed through my healing journey, I knew that I needed to do something with the horses to help other people. I knew we had the means to do so, the facility, the horses, but for me, it was a matter of getting myself healed to the point where I could be helpful to others. So I'm going to introduce you to my boys. This is what I did instead of having children. I have 7 horses instead. So, Dudley was actually given to me by another medic. He is my heart horse. He's the one that I have the strongest bond with. Dudley is very emotional and experiences anxiety when he doesn't know what's going on. Working with Dudley is amazing because he responds so quickly to his human. If you're calm, he'll be calm. If you lead with confidence, he'll be confident. He's a great reflection of your state of mind. Blazer. Blazer was actually owned by a couple of meth heads. They caught him for their special treatment. I'm not even joking, I can't make this stuff up. Anyways, on a deal, my ex-husband bought him for me as a surprise Christmas present, and he's actually been a very integral part of our team ever since. He's been to Olympic Plaza, he's been to a nursing home, he's been to Eau Claire for Autism Awareness Day, and we actually brought him right into the news studio to do the morning news one day, so he's really awesome. Rocky. So Rocky was used as a pack horse by a trail riding organization. He was completely emotionally shut down when he came to us, and over the years he started to open up and show joy. He's that stoic man, the kind of guy who's always solid and dependable. Now, Toby here is an angel from heaven. I mean, all horses are angels from heaven, but Toby really embodies that. He's a natural born healer. He knows exactly who needs what. He takes it upon himself to comfort whoever needs it the most, and he is my go-to when working with people who are suffering. Now, Buddy was our original horse. He's the alpha of the herd, and he's also really great at his job. He knows exactly what needs to be done, and is so great at transmuting negative or chaotic energy. He tolerates so much, and then he goes into the field, and he kicks, and he bucks, and he runs, and he just lets it all out. He's that horse that says, step aside, and let me show you how to do this. Like Toby, he's also extremely sensitive to suffering, and he's the one who tips me off to who needs the most help that day. Now, Star is our newest horse. He was given to us by a kind lady who just didn't have the time for him, and when I went to go visit him for the first time, he whispered to me, take you with me and we'll do some cool stuff. So Star is an athlete, and he loves to have fun with his people. So our facility, we are currently operating on a farm in Springbank, just west of Calgary. It's really nice and close to the city, and it provides us with an indoor arena, an indoor round pen, and an outdoor arena. As part of our program, we have a licensed therapist, a certified horse trainer and riding coach, and a peer facilitator, which is me. When I thought about how I wanted to structure this program, I wanted to build it from our perspective, first responder point of view first, with best practices in mind. I thought about what I would need to read, or hear, or see, or feel in order to be comfortable and safe. What I would want walking in the door is to see someone else who's been through what I'm going through. Someone who understands how ugly I can feel and act, and who wouldn't judge me for saying shitty things or laughing at awful things. I need things to be calm, and I need there to be minimal other people. I want to be in a group of my peers, but I'd also want someone there overseeing things that have the proper certification, an actual licensed therapist. The way I've designed the program is that when you show up, you are greeted by someone who's been through what you've been through. The programs are 4 people max, and a licensed therapist is present for all the work we do. The program will run 2 nights a week for 3 weeks. We tried to sync it with platoon cycles, but we realized that people needed a different schedule to be successful and to stick with it. Every night we start with a self-assessment questionnaire, and from there we go into horse-based activities. Each activity has been designed knowing that it allows people to feel safe and validated, but also leaves room for expansion, connection, self-awareness, and growth. Activities start out on the ground so that participants can learn about herd dynamics, communication between horses, the topic of energy, because working with horses is all about energy, communication between humans and horses, and then of course safety. The last 2 nights are riding, where we teach participants the physical skills, but more importantly, the energy behind riding. After each night working with the horses, there's a group session, which is led by the peer facilitator and a licensed therapist. Each night has a topic around healing. No one has to talk or share, but there is space for everyone to contribute. The point isn't to dwell on our trauma, but to talk about the journey of healing. If at any point participants feel like they need to unpack some of their trauma, they can either do it with the group, or they can go have a one-on-one with a licensed therapist. They get to choose what it looks like for them. If they decide that they want to bring their spouse or kids for a private session with a therapist, that's open to them. The group conversation is meant to be a time of sharing, and productive thought so that everyone leaves with something, whether it be a new coping skill, a new mindset, or a plan for the next step in their healing journey. Once the 6 sessions are up, they can continue to see the therapist if they like. We will also have monthly meetups that the new group of program graduates can attend at the barn. We ran a pilot program this year in the spring and had a lot of great feedback about it and its potential. Our goal for the future is to develop a level 2 that our level 1 graduates can attend. Level 2 will be a more intense therapeutic program where people can come knowing that they're going to unpack and process their trauma. In the next 5 to 10 years, we would like to have our own facility dedicated to healing where people can come and experience different types of activities and therapies. A healing center. A place where we can host retreats and allow people to get away from their day-to-day lives for a bit. They will be able to access therapists and different healing modalities. We've also been chosen to be part of a study on the efficacy of equine-assisted therapy through Western University. Now, there aren't many studies being done in Canada, as most of them are being done in the US right now, and so this is a really big opportunity for us. The only thing holding us back at this point is funding. Now, we don't want to charge people the total cost of what it costs us to put on the program, because we know that usually with mental health injury, financial stress isn't that far behind. We're in the process of fundraising and applying for grants to get everything off the ground. So, to conclude my talk, I want you to enjoy these beautiful pictures of horses. And while you're doing that, I want you to think about how they make you feel. So how do you feel? Do you feel calmer? Happier? Relaxed? Now, imagine if you could touch one. Thank you so much for your time tonight, you guys. And if you have any questions, you can come see me at my table, or you can go to our website